Okay, the recording has started. I'd like to welcome everybody to our first Zoom class of the week and our second Zoom class week for this semester. I hope you had a good long weekend, and I hope you're ready for the task that is ahead of you this week. Let me, Dr. Crawford is with us, my co-instructor. Dr. Hamilton is with us tonight. Dr. Shepard is with us, and all three of them are going to be sharing throughout the evening as well. We have a lot to cover. My goal is to make sure that we are very sensitive of people's time. You have other things to do. You've got to go to work tomorrow. So over the next hour, we want to make sure that we cover what we need to cover and that we cover it well. So our agenda for the evening is we're going to begin in just a few minutes. We're going to do a good review of Evidence 1, the APSL. Your requirements this week and next week, I'm going to thoroughly go back over task 1 and 2. I'm going to also go into peer reviewing because that is coming up very, very soon. I'm going to ask you to do something. I know there is a tendency, you get the questions on your mind and you think, well, I need to ask this question. I'm going to ask you to don't even go in that direction. I want you to listen tonight. Put on your listening ears and don't even ask the questions. If there is a need at the very end, then we will address whatever your questions are then. But I think if you'll listen carefully, I think we'll cover, if not all of it, I think we'll nearly cover everything by the end of today's session, and it'll be much more understandable. I've learned that if you get a question on your mind, if other things are going on, you really are not listening and understanding what's going on. So I'm going to ask you to please just hold your thoughts, write it down in case, if it comes along, and then we will make sure that if it has not been addressed, and if it's something that is not applicable to the class or whatever, then I will instruct you at the end to either reach out to Dr. Crawford or me, or either Dr. Hamilton or Dr. Shepard if they need to help us as well. So if you would work with us with those guidelines. I want to point out something just before we actually get started that I think we'll go ahead and bring this up. That I think that might possibly make some things clear. Dr. Lamb is getting some emails, and it's okay to email Dr. Lamb, but I don't want you to inundate him with emails unless it is necessary. If you would, at this point, if it relates to the courses, please reach out to Dr. Crawford or to me. I check my emails all the time. You have our phone numbers as well. So call us if it's relating to our classes, and we can clear up any problems that you might be having. Some of the students said that they were not receiving information. We are emailing the students, so if you're not receiving emails, then you need to check with Gardner Webb and find out if there is a problem with your emails, because we're sending them out through Blackboard, and it is telling us that all of the students that are in our shells are receiving those emails. So if you're not getting them, then there's a problem on your end, and Gardner Webb will have to take care of that. Let us know that, though, and if we need to reach out to them as well for you, then we'll be glad to help you with that. The other thing, if we have a Zoom session on Tuesday nights, and that's when all of our classes are scheduled, then unless there is a glitch that is beyond our control, and you will get an email if that would be the case, it's going to be recorded, it's going to be uploaded, and it's going to be sent to you before that night is over with. It will be played. This week is week 2. So if you will click on week 2, if you go to week 2, after our session tonight, later on tonight, if you click on week 2 and you look up under week 2, it's going to be down. I'm going to take this out, but underneath to replace this will be the actual tonight's session, and you'll be able to click on that and review it tonight for future references. It will be there for the rest of the semester. Thursday nights will be in there as well. This is also a place that Dr. Crawford and I are placing when there is an upcoming Zoom session. This is another place where you can go and find the information. I'm trying to put it in multiple places just so that, you know, if there's a problem, that you have multiple places where you can find where to join in. But if you are not getting this information, you need to let us know, because we need to know why. Because everybody at this point, if you're enrolled in one of our 4 classes, everybody should be able to access the same information. Everybody should be getting our emails. And if not by this point, Dr. Crawford and I need to know. So please reach out to us and let us know if that is a problem. I'd like to begin. If you look at week 2, and again, as we explained last week, these are topics that will be covered. Either we will talk about them or they will be covered in your reading. We may not always talk about them, but that does not mean that you're not responsible for them in your reading. The reading and the resources are always outlined for you. Those are things that you're responsible for on your own. These are the assignments for this week, and I'm going to go into this in a little more detail in just a minute. But remember, everything that you see in red is related to the APSL Evidence 1. And I will point this out again, but remember, APSL Task 1 draft, the draft is due in Blackboard's discussion board on Sunday night by 9 o'clock, and I'm going to go over that process, how to do that, exactly what you've got to do as well. In the meantime, I want to look at, and all of you have access to this, I want to look at the APSL template and materials. This is really, and again, the information that you need to create the APSL is in multiple places, but this is where I want to go for this evening's lesson. The APSL Final Evidence Narrative. Let me see. Give me just a second. Okay, yes, this is what I want. Give me 1 second. This is what you should be using as you are moving forward with the APSL. As Dr. Lamb pointed out last week, there are 6 evidences. Evidence 1 is the APSL, the one that's dealing with student learning. The template that we are providing you with, if you remember, page 1, the only thing that you have to add to that page is your name here. You put your name there, and the rest of the information will stay the same for evidence 1. If you also remember, the yellow highlighted areas, that means that you're going to add text. You're going to write something. That's where you have to do something. If it's in red, the red text is a reminder, and it should be deleted before adding your text, and then all text in black stays. Now, when you do a final submission, whether it be to for discussion board or whether it be for evaluation, this area right here, this should go away. So this part, these are just some directives for you to help you know what to do. You take that out. You do not leave that in after you have done your work, but that will be consistent. These directions will be consistent throughout the APSL process. The first thing that you're going to do is the school profile. And as you remember last week, the school profile is simply you're telling about your school. It's about a 2-page, at the most, it's a 2-page story about your school. What does your school look like? What is the history of your school? Many of your schools may be older schools, and there is a rich history around that school. I know I have visited some schools, especially in South Carolina and Darlington County, and there are some rich history around some of those old school and the older school districts. And the reason I'm even mentioning that is that you should know that that is a part of why your school is like it is. It's a part of the culture. And this is information that you need to know as you're moving forward in developing the different evidences that are going to be a part of this overall school improvement plan. So again, it begins with the school profile. You're telling about your school, the community, the school itself. What does your school look like inside, and what does it look like outside? And about a 2-page, just a mini history of it. Then we move in to task 1. Task 1 is actually what we emphasized last week. That is what you are going to be responsible for submitting for discussion board on Sunday of this week. And I don't want to insult your intelligence, but there's some things that I'm going to go over because I think as you are moving forward with it, I think that it will help things become much clearer, I hope. The candidate, that is you. And remember, throughout this process, it is never I, me, us. It's the candidate, or the candidate and the committee, the candidate and the PLC team. You keep it professional, and it never becomes a personal thing. The candidate is charged to become an educational leader who demonstrates the knowledge, skills, and abilities to promote the success of all students by facilitating the articulation, formulation, and dissemination of a school or district vision of learning supported by the school community. You're going to focus in this on student learning. The instructions are in narrative form using APA guidelines, and Dr. Hamilton is going to talk about APA guidelines in a little more detail in just a few minutes. The candidate will describe the process of researching and developing the structure for PLC. And then it goes on to tell you what that narrative should look like. I'm not going to go into that part. I'm going to get into the prompt. This is the meat of it. This is where I want you to really pay attention. The candidate, you, with the approval of the school leadership, will research the tenets and functions of a professional learning community while assuming a leadership role in developing and organizing a PLC. The supported narrative must completely and thoroughly address the following. Okay, now, you're basically doing 3 things with prompt 1, and these 3 things we are going to look for them, and they must be complete. When you submit it for our review on Sunday night, it really should be almost as in your mind, it should be as good as it gets. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to tell you that you need to do this and that and the other, but for your purposes, you should always submit it even for a review as if you don't get another chance. And then you do get another chance because we're going to give you another chance. But when we look at the work on Sunday night or the next day, then we want it to be as close to an accomplished piece of work as possible. The first thing that you're going to do is your PLC research. The PLC research must include at a minimum 3 sources, and it must be written in APA format. And again, Dr. Hamilton's going to address that shortly. The research should conclude with a complete description of the candidate's PLC design. One of your 3 sources should be a Richard DeFore reference on setting up and leading PLCs. You can't get much plainer than that. Now, you have a minimum of 3 sources, and they are going to be, the in-text citations are going to be there, APA, for those 3 sources. I highly recommend that it's a minimum. I highly recommend that you have 5. That's just me. It's not required. I think that it's a good solid piece of research work with at least 5 of the references, but you only have to have a minimum of 3. The second thing that you're going to do is a PLC selection. The candidate documents the criteria for selecting the PLC and identifies strengths of the team members. Okay, that means that you are identifying 3 to 5 people that you want on your team that's going to be with you. You know you can depend on them. They're going to be people that have a positive mindset, people that's going to help you move forward with the work that you're going to do. You don't want somebody on there that you can't get them to meet. They're going to complain all the time. Don't even ask them. You have the opportunity to select people that's going to be team players, and they're going to help you move forward with the work that you're going to do. Now, with this, you're going to narratively say, this is who I've picked, this is why I have picked them, and these are their qualifications. If they're a national board certified teacher, you tell me that. If they've got their master's degree and blah, 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 you tell me that. What distinguishes those people to be good candidates for your committee? Then you're going to actually hold a PLC meeting. During this meeting, the candidate leads the PLC to discuss the PLC's visions, the PLC's vision. You're going to tell them, this is what I've got to do. This is why I've got to do it. You're going to establish your norms. In other words, during this time, you're going to talk about, as a general rule, this is when we're going to meet each week. This is how we're going to handle things. If you need somebody to script for you to be a secretary, then you appoint that person during this time. This is where you set the parameters and establish the guidelines for what your weekly PLC meetings are going to look like as you move forward with the APSL, the APTEL, and the other evidences that you'll be creating throughout this journey. Okay. In addition to that, for every prompt and for every task, after every task, you should have, if it's applicable, and it will be applicable to this, when you get through with PLC research, PLC selection, PLC meeting, the next thing that we should see is a reference section. The reference section is just an understood thing. A reference section that is APA style, and the reference section, you at least are going to have 3 references up there because that's a part of your research. So those 3 references are going to be in there, and anything else that would have been cited, throughout the research, the selection, meeting, whatever. Anything that you would need to include in that would go under the reference section. And then the last section that you will always have after every task will be an appendices. Your appendices is where you put stuff. Those are going to be the artifacts that you use. Now remember, you had to reach out to your administration and you had to say, okay, I'm a student at Gardner-Webb University. I have to conduct a PLC. I am asking your permission to conduct a PLC. I'm asking your permission to select a committee of my peers to serve on that PLC. That is a form of communication. That is an artifact. And I should see that, Dr. Crawford should see that underneath the appendices as an artifact. That is one of your artifacts there. Another artifact that you're going to include under Prompt 1, Task 1 is going to be, you've got a PLC meeting. You're going to have an agenda. There should be an agenda that is an artifact there. You're going to have minutes from that meeting. The minutes should be included as an artifact there. And I highly encourage, you don't need to have a lot of them because it's not a photo opportunity or a photo gallery, but I would have somebody to take a picture of me presenting initially, and I would place that picture of me presenting, and I would let my group be included in that as well. This lets the people from DPI know whenever they look at that as an artifact that you indeed were working with a selected committee. So that is a good artifact to have. If you want to have it, any of these sessions recorded, taped and recorded, then you can put that link in there as well, and they always serve as artifacts. But under the appendices should always come as the last thing. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to build this thing along. In task 1, prompt 1, you're going to have a reference section, and you're going to have an appendices. In task 2, and we'll talk about that shortly as well, you're going to have a reference section, you're going to have an appendices. Now, at the end of this journey, what you will do is you will end up with one reference section and you will end up with one appendices. That means at the end of the fully developed APSL, you will take all of these references and you will combine them into one reference section. You will take all of your appendices and you will combine them into one appendices that will come at the end of your APSL document before it is finally submitted for a final evaluation. That is prompt 1, task 1, that is due for our review only this coming Sunday night. Review only. And I'm going to go back and show you exactly where you need to put that in just a few minutes. I want to move on to task 2. Now, you will learn in this process that as we are reviewing one task, we are moving into another task simultaneously. As we are bringing closure to one task with an evaluation, we're always reviewing the next task, and then another task is always behind it. So it's going to be an ongoing process from this point on, where we're basically telling you this is what you've got to do with this one and introducing another one at the same time. Task 2. Now, the reason I'm giving you this is because you really, as you're developing task 1, you've got to think about task 2 at the same time. Let's look at this. The candidate will research all available data to determine the most pressing learning need. Once the need has been collected and converted to presentation form, the candidate will lead the PLC in isolating the key data and selecting visual graphics that effectively represent the need. And you can read the rest of it. What I want to do is to get on down here into the instructions and the prompt. In narrative form, again, you're going to write. You're going to do several things. First of all, and I would do a checklist. I would say, okay, I know I've got to write it. It's in narrative form. Under that checklist, okay, number 1, I've got to describe the data collection and the presentation process central to the PLC's efforts to identify the most pressing need. I've got to describe the data. How am I going to do it? How am I going to present it? You and your committee are going to talk about it, but here is where you're going to write about it. You're going to tell how are you going to go about the collection, how are you going to present it. Central to the PLC's efforts to identify the most pressing need. That will later be the focus of an action plan to eliminate the need, and we'll talk about that when we come to task 3. Candidates are encouraged to describe the process from the perspective of a leader. Now, this is where I'm telling you, take off that teacher hat right now and put it aside and put on the principal hat. You've got to think like a principal. That's where you're moving. So at this point, from this point on, my charge to you is you take off that teacher hat, and I know many of you are still in the classroom, but you've got to put on that different lens. You've got to put on a different hat, and you've got to think differently from this point on. I was meeting with someone today, and their principal and I were talking, and I told them, I said, it's going to become a lonely world sometime, because the people that you work with as you move forward in this process, and you're going to find this happening this semester, and I promise you the principals that are with us, they'll say amen to this. People are going to begin looking at you differently, and they're actually going to say to some of you, well, you've changed. Guess what? Yes, you have changed. Yes, you are changing. And if you don't change, then you don't need to be in this program. You don't need to be in this business. That's why you are doing what you're doing. So with the new hat, when you're going to actually stop, and you're going to begin looking back, and you're going to say, if you were at Dr. Crawford's school, you're going to say, that's why Dr. Crawford did what he did. That's why he does what he does. That's why Dr. Hamilton does what she does at her school. Or that's why as a teacher moving into an administrative role, or moving in that direction, you are going to begin seeing things a lot differently. The people that you work with won't always understand it, but you will understand it, and you will understand why things happen the way they happen, why we do things the way we do it. And again, if you can't see that and you can't do that, you need to really think about, is this program for me? Let's look at prompt number 1. This is very important. Candidates will describe an evidence. You're going to talk about it, and you're going to show it. That's the description, and the evidence is you're going to show it. You're going to describe an evidence, data collection strategies and criteria in the process of identifying the most pressing need. Now, your administration should be involved in this. They already know what the most pressing needs are at this school. And at this stage of the game, the school improvement team has already met initially at the beginning of the year, and the principal has already decided this is the overarching need at our school. But now you need to remember that there's always more than just one need at a school. They have to identify what is the hottest thing, or the most pressing need for them at that time. However, there are other areas that need to be addressed. Your principal needs to be involved in this. Your committee can have suggestions, but your principal needs to be on board. So you need to sit down and have a candid conversation with them and say, now look, I am an extension of your administration right now. I can make a difference. I am whatever you've had to put on the back burner because there was not enough people to help make it happen. I can help make that happen now. Take it off that back burner, bring it up, and let that become a pressing need. So you need to be having those conversations with your principal, and whatever you do needs to be something that they are going to want you to do, and something that is going to make a difference for your school. The candidate will lead a collaborative meeting. Collaborative means you're not going to do this by yourself. It needs to be a team effort, and your administration needs to support it, where data is analyzed and discussed, concluding with agreement, consensus, and a specific need. Video of the meeting is optional. I highly recommend it, but again, that is optional. This is what you're going to do. Now, what you see 1, 2, 3, you see 4 areas highlighted in yellow. This is what you're going to do. Now, remember, if it's in black, that means that you write it just like it is. The first thing you're going to do under prompt 1 is going to be your topic up there, data collection strategies. I should see data collection strategies. And then underneath that, what should I see? I should see all the narrative work based on you and your committee about the data collection strategies for identifying the most pressing need at that school. How are you going to go about it when you put it out there? If it's the end of grade testing, if it's a map, if it's benchmark testing, anything that that you can put out on the table that you can pull data information from, then that should be discussed in this section. The second thing you're going to do, I should see this topic, or we should see this topic, criteria and process for identifying the most pressing need. Take out the yellow and it's just in black, but that yellow just simply means you're going to write something there. What criteria and what is the process for identifying the most pressing need? You know, again, this is a committee decision. You're going to talk about it under this section. Thirdly, collaborative data analysis. Collaborative means you're not doing it by yourself. It's a team effort. The collaborative data analysis, this is where you're going to talk about collaboratively. This is the data that we analyzed. And after that, after you've done all those other three things, you're going to write most pressing need. And the last thing you're going to do is that it's the consensus of this group that this is the most pressing need, and this is where you're going to move forward with trying to make a difference based on that most pressing need, and that is where your action plan will eventually come. So when it comes to prompt 1, those are the 4 things that you're going to cover, and that's it right there. There are 2 prompts to this, to task 2. 2 prompts. The second thing you're going to do, you're going to write about it in prompt 1. In prompt number 2, you're going to show it. Data is graphically represented in the narrative in the forms of charts, tables, graphs, etc. Notice it didn't say a chart. It didn't say a table. These are plural, so we should see lots of things under prompt 2. And this is the data presentation. This is where you put those charts, tables, graphs, etc. And Dr. Hamilton is going to also talk about APA style for that as well whenever she speaks in just a few minutes. Again, you're going to show stuff, but if you show something, there's going to be a short narrative, and this is according to APA that tells us exactly what we're looking at. Again, with this section, you will have a reference section as applicable, and you're going to have an appendices as applicable as well, because when you get down here, there should be another meeting, you know, at that point. Let me see. Whew. Let me come on down very quickly. Let me come back into here one more time. Again, if you look in here, we have provided you with lots of helpful information. For task 1, prompt 1, the PLC norms, all the information that you need, this tells you how you should be setting up your PLCs. So go to this section to get the information that you need that will help you with that. Again, there is other information that will help you to do your research. There's some other information down at the bottom that's not needed right now, but you'll need it later on. Okay, that is task 1 and task 2 of the APSL. I want to move forward very quickly, and I want to go to peer review materials. Your peer review teams have already been set up. They are under Zoom Teams. Now, I don't know if Dr. Crawford has, but now, Dr. Crawford, I set mine up under the peer review materials as well. I just copied in and pasted the Zoom Teams under this as well, so they would be in both places. If you are not on a Zoom team, then you need to let Dr. Crawford and me know, and we will take care of that immediately. If there is somebody that is listed on your Zoom team and they're not communicating with you, let us know as well. It could be that that person has dropped from the program and we just have not taken it out. So somebody let us know, and we will let you know whether that person is or is not in the program. And if they're not, we'll go ahead and take it out so you won't worry about trying to make contact with them from now on. I've tried to go in and clean mine up as much as possible. Okay. Again, the peer review process, which will start next week. The peer review process, you have a peer review template. The peer review template is here for you to write on. You just simply each of you will respond to two different people with APSL Task 1. You're going to look at their APSL Task 1 after it has been submitted Sunday night. You can't look at it until they submit it. Then one of your assignments next week will be to take the APSL Task 1, and you're going to look at two of your colleagues in your Zoom team, their APSL Task 1, and then you're going to respond to the key questions and provide the feedback here. And again, they're going to get the feedback, and in addition to that, you have to submit it, and I'm going to show you where you have to submit it to me and Dr. Crawford for a grade as well. The instructions will tell you, and weekly instructions, it will tell you when the peer reviews are due and exactly what you're working on, and I'll point that out as well. Again, if you're not on a Zoom team, then you need to let us know immediately. One more thing, and let me see. Okay. When this coming Sunday night, okay, you are going to submit APSL Task 1 for review. There's two places that you can go. Okay, let's go to you see here, APSL Task for Review. If you click on that, APSL Task 1 for Peer and Instructor Review. This is where you will create a thread, and this is where you will submit Task 1 for Peer and Instructor Review on Sunday night. Now, next week, after it has been reviewed, after it's sent back to you, after you've gotten comments from your peers, after you've gotten comments from Dr. Crawford, me, Dr. Hamilton, and Dr. Shepard, Dr. Lamb. Dr. Lamb will be looking at this as well. The next week, it will be ready for okay, task for review. Let me find it. Okay, the APSL this is APSL task for review, APSL assignment Dropbox. The reason I'm showing you this is so that you don't get, next week is for review, and when it's ready for a grade, this is where you go. And when it's ready for a final evaluation, you will go to APSL Task 1 for the final evaluation. And again, your directions will always tell you when it's due.
Dr. Stedman.
Yes. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Can you share your screen? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you share your screen so they can see that?
Can y'all not see that?
No.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I thought that, well, I wished I had known that. Let me, I thought that y'all could. Let me, It told me that I was sharing the screen. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, y'all hold on. Okay, I'm coming down to the bottom and it's telling me to. Okay, share. Let me try this. Let me see if it's going to let you. Okay, I've got to go back in there. Guys, hold on. I'll figure this out. Thank you for sharing that. I thought that y'all were seeing everything all along. I'll try it again. Dr. Crawford, say something while I'm finding this. Just talk to him.
Well, I will tell you that this is a really good time of year to grab your data. If you're in elementary school, you're probably at or just about finish up mid-year assessments. High schools should be finishing up or just finished the exams, EOC exams for those on block schedule. So you should have a lot of data coming in here soon. One thing that you want to, and it's real easy to fall into this trap, you can be information rich but data poor. And so what you really want to focus in on is kind of zero in on something very specific that you want to hone in on, and that will help you kind of sift and sort through all of the data that's going to be available to you, and then that will help you develop your PLC and then really develop specific things you want to look for. Because the bottom line is, in case you haven't noticed, January is over next week. And so we're already moving into February, which means that spring break clock is starting to tick. And so this time of year, first of all, as a principal, I hate it. I despise this time of school year because I'm doing 3-4 different jobs at the same time. I've got to close out this year's budget, so we're going to be starting staffing pretty soon. We've got to start planning next year's budget, looking at this MOI data, looking at the third set of benchmarks, and then prepping for EOGs, all the while get ready to close down school. That's a lot that's happening in a short amount of time. And so for your purposes, on top of you working daily, on top of being students and keeping up the assignments, you want to save yourself the heartache and gray hairs and really try to get to a very narrow field of focus so that you can jump into this with something specific in mind. You may choose something and apply some type of intervention that works well. You may try something and apply some type of intervention that doesn't work. Both are okay. Knowing something doesn't work is, I think, as important as knowing something that does. But try to narrow your focus as much as possible before you jump into your PLC practice, so that can help smooth the way to what you want to do.
Okay, go ahead. Is there anything else about, can you see the screen now? Okay, I have no idea how I did that,
yes.
But I did it. That's all that matters. Okay, Dr. Crawford, anything else about the PLC that you want to say at this time?
No, I would just say start quickly, keep it simple, narrow in something. And, it also helps if you find something that's passionate for you, because that'll really help drive your own research and your own, work around this topic in your school.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Shepard, PLC.
And I would encourage everyone to focus on the collaboration piece of that PLC. Where can you identify those gaps in achievement based upon that hard data, and who can you work with to develop strategies that are concrete, cohesive, and school-wide, or at least for your PLC, in order to ensure that you're kind of bridging those gaps. The strongest piece for me in a PLC, as you look at it, is that collaborative piece. So it's identifying that gap, but it's also identifying who you can work together to replicate some of that greatness across that professional learning community. How can you bridge the gap in that data? So if you're in high school, you're looking at your NCFEs, your EOCs, and your EVOS, drilling down as far as a single quintile. Maybe you're looking at that lower quartile students, those upper quartile students. Where are they achieving at in that specific subject area, and getting everyone on the same page to develop strategies that can be implemented and that you can benchmark yourself at a 3-week, 2-week, 1 week, or a month period when you're creating assessment. So it's that collaboration piece that's really important, I think, at really any level, that you're trying to replicate strategies across the building. And if you're looking at your data to be able to create these projects here, that's going to be a big part of your narrative. Is who you're working with. It's going to be a big part of your narrative as far as what data you're dissecting and what your goals are, and how you're achieving those goals. It's going to fill in a lot of space there for you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hamilton, get your thoughts together. I'm coming to you in just a minute. Again, guys, everything that I talked about for 40 minutes that I thought that you could see, this is, if you will, it's over here to the left. This is where I was, the APSL template and materials. If you click on that, when you go back and review this video, if you click on that, that's where I was. I was right here, and you can follow. You can actually, this is the information. So everything that I was saying, you can just follow along as you're listening to whatever I was saying that you could not see. And I apologize for that. But you should be able to easily follow along, and actually it may be a blessing in disguise, because it's going to make you look at it a little more closely when you do look at it. So that is the information there, and the same thing with the peer review materials. Again, everything is located, to the left. Everything you need is right there. And if for some reason you get there and you can't find it, just let one of us know, and we'll help you find it. Now, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Shepard don't have access to this at this point, so it would be a moot point to reach out to them for this. You would have to reach out to Dr. Crawford or me. We'll be glad to help you with anything that you would need. It's all right there. Dr. Crawford, can you think of anything, because I don't want to take up too much more of the time. I think that they can figure it out based on the fact that it's there, and follow what I said. Do you think I need to open up any of these at this point?
No, there were just some questions and chats about where specific things go, but as far as actually completing it looks pretty straightforward.
Okay, you think we're okay since I've made that, I've shown them this, and they know where they can go find it now. Okay, you think they're okay with that now? Okay. Dr. Hamilton is going to share with you some information on the APA format materials, and I'm going to, Dr. Crawford, did you get my information that I sent you this afternoon? I sent you an email, and Dr. Hamilton has added some APA.
I will shortly.
Okay, we just look at that, and
I will shortly.
Okay, and Dr. Crawford will add this to his 2 shells as well. I sent you that information, but it was late this afternoon when I sent it. So, Dr. Hamilton, it belongs to you now. Just tell me what to do.
Okay, so So good evening, everyone. So everything that you're being asked to complete, of course, needs to be done in APA format. We are using the 6th edition. And APA is just a specialized common vocabulary or format used in academia, which I'm sure you already know. But it's really considered best practice for formatting pages and using resources. And the correct use of APA certainly adds credibility to the work that you do. And then when you're reading sources and it's done correctly and you see that, it helps you know that that's a more credible source as well. So there are two really good sources for you. And I know you have a lot of stuff and sometimes it's hard to sort of tease all that out. But your Males Scale Handbook. So Dr. Stedman, could you open that up, please?
We'll go ahead and talk while I'm finding that.
Mm-hmm. On page 109 of the Males Scale Handbook, and then again in your course syllabus on page 54. It's the exact same information provided for you about the APA format. It doesn't look like that's going to come up. But so you'll see a lot of information provided by the university for you, again, on page 109 of the Males Scale Handbook and of your course syllabus on page 54. It tells you about, it starts out, there you go, yeah, 109. It's going to start out with just information about the APA manual, and it gives you the sections that you can find in the APA manual. Are you able to get that to scroll down, Dr. Stedman?
Yeah, I've got to get these pictures out of the way, and I'm trying to figure out
It's okay.
where.
You'll also see an online guide to the Purdue OWL and the bibme.org, and we'll look at those after we just sort of look at what's in your handbook and on your course syllabus. And remember that you want to use the typeface and size of 12 point, preferably Times New Roman. Your line and word spacing, double space between all your lines of text, between paragraphs, headings, and subheadings. Provide 2 spaces after punctuation, so period, space, space.
Doctor, let's just let them know to go to page 109 on that, because I don't want to take up any more of your time, and I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong on this as well. I apologize. This like
you are fine.
This is my first time doing this, so I'm.
That's fine. So page 109 of your handbook or page 54 of your syllabus, it has all this information listed in there.
Let's come back.
That's just a great resource for you. And then there's an awesome resource also that Dr. Stedman shared the link to, is Purdue OWL.
Yeah, I can do that.
If you can do that one, when you go into the Purdue OWL Writing Center. This was my favorite one. Let's see, the link that you sent, there you go. We'll stop right there. There you go. Where it says citation style chart at the top. Can you click on that? Right there, citation style chart. It's to the right. Go to the text, to the body.
Citation style, okay, gotcha, okay.
Go to that, Thank you. And then right under it says citation style chart, media file, citation style. Go right there at the top in the body.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
So this is an awesome resource for you. So the APA part is the middle column. So if you'll look down, you'll see that that it depends on whether you're doing a reference list or
right here.
Citation, and it gives you an example for everything. So like citing books, if you scroll down just a little, like there's like a general book format, and it gives you the exact example. In that middle column is what you want to stick with, though. That's your APA column.
Right.
Like if you have 2 authors, you use an ampersand instead of AND. Just like all those little nuances and important information that's so helpful. But I think that's an awesome resource for you to just be able to go down and look and see what it is that you need. And then there's another source that Dr. Stedman has listed there.
Let me see. I've lost it again, Dr. Hamilton. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That bibme.org is very easy as well. You just go in and it just says, what is it you're wanting to do? And you just click on it and it gives you some great examples. So hopefully these resources will help you with any of your APA questions, since every little thing makes it a little different on how you need to do it. So hopefully those will help and they're there for you.
And under your APA resources, Dr. Hamilton has done a great job. She's put some APA pointers in there. So if you go to that section, there's just some general pointers that you can look at that will take all of this information, and she's condensed it into a one-pager that will help you as well. So that was just a thank you for doing that today, Dr. Hamilton, and providing the students with that. So that will help you. Dr. Crawford, what else can you think of? I know we've put a lot out there for them tonight, a lot.
No, I just want to echo what Dr. Shepard said. You want to be very, very specific and targeted in what you're looking at. You're going to be inundated with a lot of data, and it's easy to kind of get lost in all that. And so you definitely, I think your principal, whoever you're working with, is going to be your first resource. But if you're finding yourself kind of lost in numbers and data and how do I connect this with that, just reach out and we'll definitely try to point you in the right direction.
And guys, I know this is a lot in one night. It won't always be that way, but we're just trying to get you started. So it's just a lot to start with. I promise you, like I said last week, after we get through this week, you're going to, by the end of this week, I promise you, you'll look back and you'll start putting the puzzle pieces together. Next week, it will all come together when you begin bringing closure to task 2 and you begin looking at the action plan. So the first 2 or 3 weeks is a lot, but then after that, it will all begin making sense. It's already beginning to make sense to many of you already, because I've gotten some emails and the emails made sense. So, you know, the light bulb has come on and you know what you're doing. You've just got to move forward and to do it. This is what I would encourage you to do. This is a lot to digest. You need to take the time to think about all of this. Then if you have a question, it's okay to send us an email and just say, you know, I don't understand this or explain this. Call us. Call me. I've talked to students. I think Saturday I probably talked to about 8 students in the course of Saturday. So it's okay. You know, we understand that for many of you that this is a big learning curve, and the main thing is, at the end of the day, we want you to be successful, and whatever it takes, we're going to help you. If you do your part, I promise you, we're going to do our part. Thursday night, Dr. Lamb, you may hear a lot of this again, but that's okay. You're going to hear it a lot to begin with, and then all of a sudden, a lot of it will go away. But it's, you know, it's just no different than your classroom. How many times do you have to say the same thing over and over again to your students? We're just big students. That's all we are. So, you know, it's going to be the same thing. Reach out to us. We're here to help you. Again, we want you to be successful. If you have not had a clinical coach visit by your clinical coach 1, if you have not heard from them, you should at least have heard from them. If you don't have anything scheduled, you need to let me know. Just send me an email and let me know, and just say, I haven't heard, so I can help Dr. Lamb figure out, you know, what the problem is. Check your Gardner Webb email daily several times. I had to go on a scavenger hunt to get some phone numbers on some people, and they just haven't gotten used to using their Gardner Webb. That's important. Now, again, you can figure out a way to have your regular Gardner Webb email connected to your regular email so that it all comes in at the same time if that's what you want to do. But we have to use Gardner Web email, so it's important that you look at that daily. Make sure that you reach back out to that clinical coach one if you haven't done so that they can go ahead and get your face-to-face scheduled and meet with your site supervisor so that they can get things going. I've had some excellent visits with the ones that I have visited. I'm going to see some of you this week. Right, Marsharika? I see you this week. I'll see you this week. Chaka, we've already visited. Several I visited today. So I've had some good visits with people. Dr. Shepard, anything else you'd like to say for the good of the business? I'm going to let you do the benediction today.
No, just got to start typing, start putting words on paper, start putting it out there. You guys can do it, and we're here to help. And so if you guys need anything, let us know. Okay,
guys, I hope that this has been beneficial. Again, I think once you go back and review it and look at it, I think you'll see where it all makes sense. It'll all come together. Again, reach out to us if you need us. We're here for you. Okay, I will send out the information. You'll get this sometime tonight. I'll get it to Dr. Crawford, and he will get it to his 2 classes. I will post it in my 2 classes. You'll get an email with it as well. And then after that's done, later on tonight or no earlier than in the morning, you will get the link to join our class on Thursday night. After Thursday night, we'll determine whether we need next Thursday night or not, but it may come to the point that we only have Tuesday night next week. We've got Thursday night scheduled just in case. We'll just kind of see where we are with things. It doesn't hurt to have it, and you know, we may do it just to make sure that that everybody's okay. Anyway, Dr. Crawford, anything else? Dr. Hamilton, anything else before we close?
Good night. Thank you all.
Okay, good night, everybody, and look for your information later on tonight. Okay, see you Thursday. Let me see.